Hello, my name is Yonis. In this video tutorial, we are going to take a step further and conclude the series of 5 video tutorials by actually creating finally the payroll. Now we've got everything in place. We have the main menu, we have the employees, we have the payslip, we have the rates, and now we need to create the payroll. To do this, what we will need to do is basically clone some of the data from here and paste it here. But we need to paste it in such a way that this data will dynamically change every time all of these values change. To get started, we need to basically go to the date, right click and select copy or Control-C to copy, right click here and select paste. Then we're going to follow the same process for the employee's number, copy, and then we're going to click here and we'll select paste. Then we're going to follow the same process for the employee name. So Control-C to copy, Control-V to paste. And what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to, excuse me, I'm going to delete the word employee. And I'm just going to put here name. I'm just going to also remove the colon. Let's remove the colon from here as well. And here I'm going to select and click and drag with the mouse cursor changes to a black cross. I'm going to click and drag and I'm going to change the name here to a surname. So I've got the name, I've got the surname. The next thing I want to do to include is the pay date. Control-C to copy, Control-V to paste here. Let's double click here and remove the colon. The next thing I want to include is the basic pay. So I'm going to click here and paste that. Double click to remove the colon. And I'm going to replicate this. And I'm going to double click, I'm going to put a hyphen, I'm going to put here also the hours worked. Yeah, let's put hours worked. Okay. So the next thing I need to do, let's increase the width a little bit so we can actually display this. Okay. The next thing we need to do is overtime. So I'm going to Control-C to copy or right click to copy, Control-V to paste, and let's increase that. Now the overtime again, I'm just going to remove the colon here and I'm just going to replicate again that one as well because I want to also include the hours worked. Let's double click here to increase the width. The next thing I would like to display is the allowance. So right click, copy or Control-C to copy. And let's put it here, Control-V to paste. Now that one, this field will have two values. So allowance, I'm just going to put here car. And I'm going to replicate this. So by clicking and drag it. And then I'm going to put allowance for clothing. And double click here. Okay, the next value I would like to display is the employee's national insurance contribution. So I'm just going to go here and right click copy, right click paste or Control-V paste. That's a bit too big, so I can actually reduce it. The next one is income tax, Control-C to copy, Control-V to paste. Let's double click here. The next one, let's double click here as well. The next one is the company pension. So I'm going to Control-C to copy, Control-V to paste. I'm just going to type here pension. Don't have to have the company pension. Okay. The next one is the total taxable pay. Control-C to copy, Control-V to paste. And the next one is total reduction. Control-C to copy. Now, if I cannot go further down, I need to click and drag to go a bit to the right. Control-V to paste. Let's double click here to increase the width. Let's remove the colon. Let's do the same here. Okay, total deduction. And finally, the net pay. So Control-C to copy or right click on copy, Control-V to paste. Okay, I've got all the fields that I would like here. Okay, the next thing I need to do is basically display here all the data dynamically. So before I do that, let's highlight this row here, just below the labels that we have. We're going to go to the Home tab, and then we're going to select the All Borders option. Okay. All right, so the first one is date. So I'm going to put the equal sign here. So I'm creating a function, and then I'm going to basically select the cell. So I say equals C7 in this case. In your case, you might have a different cell. Press enter. So now, whatever information is added on the C7 cell, it will also display here. So I'm going to do the same here, employee's number. So I'm going to select the employee's number, enter. So if the employee's number changes from 3 to 1, then here will change as well. I'm going to say equals here, that's a first name, enter. I'm going to click here, that's a equal sign, that's a surname, enter. I'm going to click here, equals payday, enter. I'm going to go click on the basic equals, select the basic pay, enter. Basic hours worked equals, that's the value, enter. Overtime equals, that's the overtime, excuse me, enter. Here is the overtime hours worked equals, that's the hours, enter. Allowance car equals, so that's the allowance here, enter. Allowance for clothing equals, that's for clothing here, enter. Let's go a bit to the right. The next one is employees national insurance contribution, so equals, select, enter. Income tax equals, select, enter. Pension equals, select the pension, enter. Total equals, enter. The total deduction equals, enter. And finally, the net pay equals, selected, and enter. So now every time a value changes, this value changes as well. Every time a person changes, all the values changes here, changing here, and also the change there. All right, so the first thing is done now. The next thing we need to do is click on the payroll. And what we will need to do, we will need to basically create a section here, a row with the labels. I don't want to do this manually, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to highlight this now. And I'm going to right click and select copy. I'm going to go now to the payroll. Let's go through on row 14. I'm going to right click on the row 14. I'm going to select paste. Now I don't really want these values here, so I'm just going to highlight them and press delete. I don't really want them. However, I need to include another row here, so I'm going to highlight, oops. Let's click and drag to highlight this row here, and I will show you why I'm going to do this in a second. Also, we need to double click to make sure all the information is visible. Okay. Okay. Double click to make sure all the information that you have is fully displayed. And okay. Right. The next thing we need to do is basically every time somebody basically adds a record here, and this changes, this value is changing, and we click the save button, we're going to create a save button, then we want these values, all these values, to basically go here and stored onto this worksheet. How can we do this? If I go to the payslip, I'm going to highlight all these cells, but not yet. Let's click on the top left corner, the very first cell that we have, and I'm going to go to the Developers tab. With the Developers tab selected, click on Record Macro, and I'm going to call this macro MCR Save Record. Okay, I'm going to click OK, And now my macro is start recording. So any action I'm going to do, it will generate the VBA code for me. So I'm going to highlight this row. Once this row is highlighted, I'm going to right click and select copy. I'm going to go to the payroll page. I'm going to click on this cell here. I'm just going to leave a gap in between. I will show you again later on why. I'm going to right click here, and instead of select paste, I'm going to select paste special. And then I'm going to select values and number formats, values and number formats. Click OK, and make sure all the information is fully displayed. Okay, now I've done this. I'm going to go back to the payslip. I'm going to go up, and I'm going to click once again on the top, on the very first cell. And then, and only then, I'm going to select stop recording. Now, I broke this purposely so I can actually show you why it's not going to work. We will create the macro again, and we will basically rename the macros as well. But I did this purposely so you can actually see why, if it's not working, why it's not working. I'm going to right click here on the main menu button, and I'm going to right click again to make sure I select it and I see this menu. I'm going to click copy. I'm going to right click here. I'm going to select paste. I'm going to move this button further down, and I'm going to rename it to read save record. Save record. I'm going to click away. I'm going to right click again, and I'm going to assign a macro. Now this macro I'm going to assign is called save record. Click OK. Now click away. Now if I click, let's say for instance I'll change the value to number 5. So number 5 is Victoria. I'm going to increase her hours. Okay, and then click save. Okay. Now, so as you can see, the information is stored. So the next thing I need to do though, if I go here now again and I add a new record, I click save and I go there. So this is, I've changed the record to Anna now instead of Victoria. If I go here, now Victoria is overwritten by Anna. So I don't have a basically record of what happened before. So what I will need to do in this case, I need to record the macro again. So to make sure the record will be stored. And in order for me to do this, I need to go here. I need to copy this. I need to escape actually first. I need to record the new macro. So let's select the first row again. I'm going to go to the developers tab. I'm going to record a macro. And I'm going to call this macro mcr save record 2. I'm going to click OK. Now I'm going to follow the same process, but I'm going to do something slightly different. So I'm going to highlight this row. I'm going to right click and select copy. I'm going to go to the payroll. I'm going to go here to the date. I'm going to right click here and select paste special. Then I'm going to select the values and number formats. Click OK. And now something I didn't do before. Now I'm going to right click here. I'm going to select insert. And now because I have selected insert, so basically what I'm doing, I'm adding the record and then I'm adding a new blank row every time I will execute the macro. So this way it's not going to override the other information. So I'm going to go back to the payslip. I'm going to click on the first cell here, and then and only then I'm going to stop the macro. If I right click here on the save record, right click again, and I select assign a macro, and I will assign this time, I'm going to assign the save record to macro. Click OK. Click away. Now if I click here once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. So I have basically saved 5 records already. So, and 1 record that I had before, 6 records. So if I go to payroll, I should see 6 records here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So all 6 records are in regards to Anna because I have not changed the word, the person. So if I change Anna to John White, and I'm just going to change his hours, click Save. If I go now to the payroll, the first record I've got here is John White, and I've got the money that he earns, the contribution, etc., and the net pay. Now if I go back to payslip and I change this to somebody else, let's change it to Victoria Yellow. Let's reduce her hours a little bit and click Save. And we'll go there. Now we have Victoria, John, and Anna. Let's add a couple records for the other people. So it's a payday, so we need to basically add let's go back here actually. Let's start with a new data. So let's delete these rows. Let's go back here. So I'm the accountant. My job is, my responsibility is someone needs the payroll and I need to make sure that everyone will be paid. So I'm going to start with the first employee, which is ID number 1. So John has worked 36 hours this week and John has worked 9 hours overtime. Let's save his record. Now let's go here. Number 2, David Green has worked 30 hours and he has worked 0 hours overtime. I'm going to save his record. Go here. Number 3 is Anna Blue. Anna Blue has worked 27 hours and 3 hours overtime. And I'm going to go to the ID number 4, Alex Black. Alex Black has worked 30 hours and he worked only 1 hour overtime. And finally, number 5, Victoria Yellow has worked 28 hours and she has worked 2 hours overtime. Click Save. Now I have basically created the payroll for all the staff, all 5 staff, in few seconds. Probably a minute or 2. And if I go to the payroll now, I've got a record for all the staff. That's the power of Microsoft Excel and automated systems that by using macros. So if I go here now, and I can actually put some extra payments for Victoria. So I put 3 additional payments for Victoria. So Victoria appears 3 times here now, okay? And let's put David now. Let's select David. Or let's select Alex. Alex, I'm going to make another payment for Alex. Okay. So if I go now to the payroll, what I need to do, I need to now calculate how much money each person is making. Now, without, however, going through one by one and then calculate. Because if I go through, if they have received 100 payments, it's too time consuming for me to actually calculate, and it's most likely for me to make a mistake. And that's why we are using Microsoft Excel. Microsoft Excel will do the calculation for us automatically. To do this, what I need to do is I'm going to select one of these nice titles here. I'm just going to paste it here. And I'm just going to change this to name, to the ID actually. And I'm going to replicate this a few more times. I'm going to say this is the surname. And the next value will be the net pay. Called total net pay. Okay, so far so good. Now I'm gonna make sure that I've got some rows here. Let's do the first one. So I'm gonna go to the Home tab, add borders all around. The first ID is ID 1. And now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna highlight this. I'm going to click and drag, and while I'm clicking and dragging, I'm going to hold the control key down. Okay, if I hold the control key down, you can see that the information is added is the same information, which means that I have to add the numbers manually, 2, 3, 4, etc., etc. Okay, so if I Control Z to undo this, let me show you how to add it automatically. If I don't hold the control key down, it's adding the numbers for me automatically. And because I've got some extra numbers here, I can highlight the bottom row, which doesn't contain anything, replicate. So I've got 5 records, 5 different IDs. Each ID has a surname. So I've got ID 1 is White, Mr. White. ID 2 is Mr. Green. ID 3 is Mrs. Blue. ID 4 is Mr. Black, and ID 5 is Mrs. Yellow. Okay. So now I need to create a formula that calculates the total of net pay for each individual person. And to do this, the process is pretty simple. We're going to create a sum if statement. So I will start with the equals sum if, and then in brackets I'm going to put my argument, and it gives you a little guidance here as well. So the range is I'm looking for the surname, so I'm going to select the first column here. So I'm just going to select, I'm going to start from here. I'm going to highlight this will do. I don't have to keep going down and down and down. Okay, I'm just going to highlight this, and instead of actually keep scrolling down and down and down, I'm going to just put here 5,000. So it's going to go down 5,000 rows. Then the next value I'm looking at is the word white. So in double quotes, I'm going to type the word white. That's the surname of the customer. And then I'm going to put comma, I'm going to put space, and the next value I'm looking at is the net pay. So I'm going to highlight all this. Okay, not everything at the moment, but because I cannot, again, I don't want to go down to 5,000 rows, so I'm just going to type them there. I'm going to close the bracket, and I'm going to press the enter key on the keyboard. And what this will give me is the total amount that Mr. White has made, despite the fact that the data is mixed and matched here. Okay, to simplify the term to validate that Mr. White has actually made the correct amount of money, and I have calculated the correct amount of money, I'm going to go here, I'm going to try to find Mr. White's record. So Mr. White has only one record, so if I change this record to 1, it will give me 1 here. Now to validate this further, I'm going to go to the payslip, and I'm going to find Mr. White again for one more time, and I'm going to put another record on his name, which is £250 and 39 pence. Now, if I click save the record, what I should see on the payroll is Mr. White has received £251 plus the £1 plus 39 pence. If I go here and I scroll to the right, that's correct now. So I can see that Mr. White is appearing twice, twice, yeah, okay. And on the first payment, he has received £253. So if we'll change that to 2, okay. The first payment he received £2, and on the second payment he received £1. 2 plus 1 equals 3. So I know that there's nothing wrong with my formula, and my formula works fine. So now I have confirmed that my formula works okay. I'm going to right click and copy my formula, press the escape key on my keyboard, click now on Mr. Green's total pay, go back to the function area, Control V to paste, and the only thing I need to do now is change the name to Green. Press the enter key. Then I'm going to paste again the formula, because when you press the enter key, it's moving automatically below. The next thing I need to do is basically change the name to Blue. Enter. And I'm going to paste again, and then I'm going to change the name to Black. Enter. And finally, I'm going to change the name to Yellow. Okay. Enter. So now I know how much money each member of staff has made, okay, in total. Now I know this, I would like a bit more user-friendly interface to be able to see which member of staff has made the most money or the least money, and I want to look in a professional, to see this information in a professional manner. To do this, I need to go to the Insert menu, select Charts, and then select, in this case, I'm just going to put a pie chart. Now, the information here shows empty because I did not highlight things automatically. I can do this manually, but I'm going to delete this. I want to, because I'm lazy, I want to do things automatically. So I'm going to highlight the surname and the net pay for all the customers. And then I'm going to go to insert. And then I'm going to go to chart. And then I'm going to go to the pie chart. And as you can see now, I will be able to see the total net pay for every single of the staff. So Mr. White, green, blue, black, and yellow. Now, obviously you can change the colors and stuff. So these surnames obviously will not be the actual surnames. In this case, you can actually right click here and you can select add data label. And when you select add data label, it basically is adding the amount of money each person has made. Now, if I go now to the payslip and I go to John White, and John White has actually made a bit more money, just keep clicking to add more records for Mr. White. If I go now to the payroll, Mr. White has earned a lot more money than anybody else. So the total amount of money Mr. White has earned is £5,511.58, where everybody else is a bit lower than that. Like the next one is down on the list is 1,447, and this color belongs to yellow. And again, you can actually change the colors further. So if I click here and I click here again, I could click this option here and I could actually select some of the other presets. So I can actually display different information. Now, you can also change the colors of things. So you can actually select each individual. You can create a monocolor, okay, to make it a bit more professional. So because I'm using these colors throughout, I will stick to this color here. Oops. And once you're happy with that, click away and then it will register. Now, if I highlight this, again, I can change the color. Simply is the font color, change the font color. And if I right click here, I could actually change other settings as well. Format chart area, fill, auto. So I could actually select any of these options here, and I can actually select the color that I'm happy with. But if I do this, obviously the text, it doesn't show properly. So instead of actually pattern, I could actually put a picture or gradient. So if I put a gradient, I could actually select each element here and try to keep it a bit light up. Have a play around a little bit. I'm pretty sure you can do a better job than that, than what I've done. Okay. So now my chart looks professionally done and dusted. Now, if I go here, if I don't want people to see this, what I can do, I can actually highlight them and then click and drag them further to the side there. So away from the area, and what I could do, I could actually click and drag here to make them hide, or highlight the columns, right click and select hide. But if I do this, it's hiding the whole chart. So I'm going to highlight these columns again, right click and select on hide, and just make them smaller. This will do. Okay, hide them like that. Because if you really want to unhide them, you can always right click and select unhide, and then they're going to stretch. Okay, just like that. So let's do this again. I'm going to highlight them all and just reduce the width and just increase a little bit just to make sure it will display. Okay, so that's how you're creating the payroll. That's how you record data, and that's how you're creating a chart which basically displays the staff's information automatically. Now I can go to my main menu, I can go to the payslip, I can edit things, I can save things, I can go to the main menu, I can go to the payroll, I can go to the main menu, I can go to the rates, and I can go to the main menu, I can go to the notes. And this is basically how you 3, 2, 1, go. And this is basically how 3, 2, 1, go. 3, 2, 1, go. And that's how you go to the notes. And this is how you create basically a powerful application by using Microsoft Excel in order to apply a number of different calculations and make your life easier. There's other things that you can actually do here, like print the payroll, and I will create additional video tutorials on how to do this. The process is straightforward. We can create, in fact, let's do this now. Let's create a print button. So we're going to create a print button that basically will print only this area here. So to do this, what I need to do, I need to make sure that this area is highlighted. And I'm just going to put the company's logo here. So let's create a little logo here. So I'm going to go Insert, Shapes, and I've got a gap here. So I'm just going to create the logo there. Let's stick to the similar colors. And I'm just going to call this Alpha Design Payroll. I'm just going to copy this. Control C to copy, Control V to paste. Oops, Control V to paste. Let's highlight this. Let's change the color. Let's make it bold. Let's increase the size. Let's reduce slightly. Let's underline it. Okay. So Alpha Design Payroll. Okay. So, and then you can put a couple things here as well. So if I go to Shapes, let's create a little calculator here. Let's make it bigger first. So we'll be able to actually move things around. So I'm going to hold the Control key down. Just going to reduce the size here and bring it here. And I'm going to hold the Control key down to replicate this. I'm going to make this smaller. And I'm going to bring it here. I'm going to hold the Control key and the Shift key down. I'm going to hold the Shift key down to select these two. Control and Shift now to move it there. I'm going to hold the Control and the Shift key down. Oh, sorry, I'm going to hold the Shift key down and move it a bit to the left. I'm just going to put one more here, Control and Shift. And I'm just going to put it there. I'm going to hold the Shift key down to make sure that this is right back in the center, right exactly in the center. So now I'm going to hold the Control and the Shift key down and click and drag downwards a bit. And again, one more time. Okay, so this will do. So I have just created kind of a calculator. So I'm just going to hold now the Shift key down and highlight all the elements that I've just put. Let's click here. You best off start with from the bottom, make it easier, because Microsoft is adding these elements for you. Now, to make sure that I have selected everything, if I move everything, and you see here I left something behind, so I'm going to Control Z to undo, hold the Shift key down and make sure I select that one. So, oops, Control Z to undo. If you made a mistake, you always Control Z to undo. So I know now I have selected all of them, and I don't want to faff about later on again. So therefore, I'm going to right click and select group here. So now everything will be act as one entity. I'm going to click and drag this here. Just going to put this there. Alpha Design, enter Payroll. And I'm just going to right align it. So go to the Home tab. Sorry, left aligner. Okay. And I'm just going to double click here on this shape. Come on. Go to the shapes. Just going to put 4 points. Yeah, 4.5 will do. And I'm just going to change the color to something. more appropriate. This will do. Okay, so I've got my logo here. That's good. So now I'm going to highlight this, just this area. This is what I want to print. I'm going to go to the page layout and make sure that I'm going to go to the print area, and then I'm going to select set print area. Now, as you can see here, I've got a dotted line. Now, the dotted line means that the print area will basically print this on one page and this on the second page. I don't want this to happen. So what I will need to do is go to File, select Print, and on the Properties, Print Properties, is it from Properties? Let me check. Portrait, Print Side, Page Setup. That's the one. I want to print landscape, and I would like to fit all in one page. Click OK. So before I click OK, let me repeat this. We select the landscape because it's wider, and then we want to fit in one page. Click OK. Now when you do this, you will be able to see exactly how this will be printed. And as you can see here, I've got here a gap. This I need to put some a bit more margin here to make it a bit, and a little bit of margin at the top to make it look good. So I'm going to go back, and I'm just going to put here, right click here and select insert, and I'm going to make sure that this is the same color as this. So I'm going to select here, use the home tab, double click on the format painter brush, and click and drag here, and click and drag here. So basically I'm squaring it. So now I'm going to highlight this again, and I'm going to go to the page layout, print area, set print area. So I set the print area now. Now if I go to File and select Print and select Page Setup, I will be able to see that everything now looks in proportion and I'm happy with this. Okay, now I'm happy with this. I'm going to create a macro, and here's what the macro will do. The macro will basically print the record. I'm going to go here. What's that here? Okay, let's delete that. Okay, I'm going to click on the first row here. I'm going to go to the Developers tab. I'm going to select Record Macro, and I'm going to call this macro MCR Print. I'm going to click Print. I'm going to click OK. Sorry. Now I'm start recording the macro. I'm going to go to File, select Print, and then click Print. And while it's printing, I'm going to stop now the macro. Now I'm going to go here, right click on this button, right click again, select Copy, right click here, select Paste. I'm going to move this a bit just below it here. I'm going to change the label. Oops, I'm going to change the label to read Print. I'm going to click away. I'm going to right click here. I'm going to select Assign Macro. I'm going to apply the MCR Print. Click OK. And now if I click here, the printing will begin. And every time it's printing, it's going to be printing basically this page and nothing else. So that's how you create a save macro. That's how you create a print macro. If you wish to do any other macros, like for example, save the Word document, you can do this again as well. Okay, if you want to make edits and you want to save the document, you create a macro, then you go to File and you select Save, and then your macro will be basically every time you press this macro will save your workbook. Hope you've learned something new today. I hope you will be able to apply these new skills of yours to create something very, very powerful, more powerful to what I have actually done this year. See you in the next video tutorial. Bye. Bye.